Yeah, I knew as soon as I went to get a drink of water, that's when it was going to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live stream with Trans Family Support Services. My name is Evan. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am the Community and Youth Programming Manager at Trans Family Support Services. And today we are hosting a panel on an intergenerational conversation in honor of Trans Day of Visibility. So listen, all of you watching this right now, I'm going to put it out there right now. There are some weird solar flares happening that are causing tech issues for like everyone. And so one of our panelists, I know Martina's smiling, it's solar flares. My partner explained this to me last night, like how the sun interacts with like internet waves, solar waves. I don't know. I'm not a science person. I studied social work. Solar flares are the reason why tech issues are happening and why we're starting late. So please, have some grace for us. We don't control the sun. We just bring our own sunshine to every conversation. So we're going to work with what we've got. We're going to work with who's available at any given moment. And, if some of our other panelists are able to hop on when their internet reconnects or whatever happens, we're going to get there. But right now, I'm just excited to introduce y'all to our panelists who are here, and we'll go ahead and get started. So I don't know. We'll go with who's right next to me. So Martine, do you want to introduce yourself first? Do name, pronouns, and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I also really appreciate your shirt. Yeah, I had to give a shout out to that. I just read it. Hello there. My name is Martine. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the operations manager here at Trans Family Support Services, and I'm a local trans advocate. So that's me. And then Francesca, I'm super excited to hear about you.
Happy Trans Day of Visibility 2022, everyone. My name is Francesca DeVere. My pronouns are she and Aya. I'm a librarian with the San Diego Public Library and a volunteer at Trans Family Support Services, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
Excellent. Francesca, before we get started, I just wanted to ask, did the library put out any books or do anything for TDOV?
Not this year. We did plan the virtual one with North County LGBTQ last year, but we did do like a post on our SCPL Pride Facebook page. And so, but we try to celebrate LGBTQ and transness every day of the year.
What a good answer. So did you say there's an SD County Library and SDCL Pride Facebook page?
Yeah, so for San Diego Public Library, we have a Facebook page, and I can drop it in the chat too. Well, if you just look up SCPL Pride on Facebook, it's the San Diego Public Library's LGBTQ plus page. We are launching tomorrow our Pride Library Card Contest. It's our 3rd annual Pride Library Card Contest, and we always get really amazing art from the community. The grand prize winner is selected to be on this year's Pride Library Card.
Awesome. Oh, so if you're in San Diego and you're not already following the San Diego County Library Pride page, why are you not? I mean, our libraries, first of all, are safe havens, especially for our queer youth. I know how much time I spent in the library, the public library. I grew up in Poway, and so the Poway Public Library. I was there all the time when I was like a middle schooler. It was walking distance from my house. Like, our libraries are the last great safe haven. So support library initiatives to be supporting us. I love that. All right. So the whole intentionality with having this conversation was to be able to put it in this intergenerational framework, right? So to talk about it from this perspective of we're all coming into this community and this experience with different generational markers. And so while it typically wouldn't be polite, I think it's relevant for the sake of this conversation, right? To share, how old we are and at what age did you come out as queer, and then if that was a different age than when you came out as trans or non-binary, what did that timeline look like for you all? So like, I'm 24. I came out as queer when I was 14, I think, initially, and then I came out as trans around 15, 16, my freshman year of high school. And so that's kind of what my timeline has looked like. So as I was coming out as trans, that was right when like Laverne Cox had just been on the cover of Time. So that was that's my big marker of my trans timeline. So I don't know, Francesca, what's your trans timeline look like? Where do we place you in our history?
Thank you, Evan. So for my personal timeline, I came out as queer my senior year of high school at the age of 18, and I thought that was enough, but then I did have a second coming out as a trans woman, when I was 29 years old. And I'm currently 37.
Oh, you look amazing. Oh my
Thank
God.
you.
I thought you were going to say you're like 32. I'm like, yeah, work. I believe you. 30. Wow. Hey, Francesca, I'm so happy to have you joining us. You look amazing.
Thank you.
Martine?
Yeah, so I originally came out as a gay man when I was 13 years old. And since then, I've had lots of coming out experiences because I've gotten to know myself more and who I am. And so I identify now as queer and non-binary. And I've never felt more like myself. I've never felt more empowered to be that, just be. So, and I am 30 years old. I just celebrated my birthdays a couple weeks ago.
Yay. Our staff and our key staff team is filled with Pisces, which is absolutely astounding. I think it makes sense that like Pisces are doing this very empathetic role. So happy belated birthday, Martine. And you also look amazing, let alone for 30. You just look amazing. And I like that you mentioned, Martine, this piece of multiple coming outs, right? So like, when we're talking to an audience that doesn't really get the opportunity to come out, we may kind of bookmark or benchmark our coming out story to certain like, oh, well, this is the first time I came out, and then this is when I came out as trans, and then this is who I am now. And I like that you mentioned that, Martine, because like the coming out process is something that can happen over a span of many years. And the identity that like some people may come out initially, maybe they come out 3 or 4 times, and then things change, and things are always changing. So I do appreciate that, that little note as well. So let's get into it. Let's talk about trans visibility and TDOV. So I have my list of questions, and I'm trying to figure out the way I want to phrase them and what order I want to put them in. But I think there's a question that I feel like is really important. And that first is, what does visibility mean for you? What does TDOV mean for you? So I don't know who wants to take that first, but I think both of you probably have pretty phenomenal answers. Okay, I'll pick. Francesca can go.
There you go.
I'm back, y'all.
Welcome back.
Bill for this tech support. You know that, right?
My husband.
We appreciate the tech support from the hubby.
Excellent. Well, Francesca, do you want to hold off on your answer, and do you want to give our new panelist, would you like to introduce yourself? We were just sharing name and pronouns, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, my name is, they call me Lady Pepper. My name is Venice Michelle Brooks, but they call me Lady Pepper. I am very active in the community. My pronouns is she, hers, diva. That's about it.
Excellent. So we were just getting started on this conversation of, TDOV, and Francesca was about to answer. So maybe you want to think on the question while she's answering, but what does visibility mean for you as a trans person? So Francesca, I don't know if you wanted to go ahead.
Of course. Thank you, Evan. So for me, visibility, especially today, Trans Day, visibility is super important. It's just a day for me to feel super proud and empowered of who I am. I'm a librarian, so I think there's power in sharing our personal truth and our stories. Because there was a point in my life when I was a teenager when I wasn't really proud of who I was, and I had to live a secret. So today, it's a good reminder for myself of the opportunity and the blessings I have in my life to live an authentic life, free of shame, free of guilt, and to use my story to empower and to inspire others.
Excellent. Thank you, Francesca. I love that piece of, for so long, we as individuals who may not know that we're allowed to be trans, may not know we're allowed to be queer, or maybe even know that this is who we are and how we identify, but aren't in a situation where we can identify that way. The importance of something like TDOV and Trans Day of Visibility, and being able to say yes, this is a day just about acknowledging that we exist, right? That is a huge piece of this fact of, for so long, so many of us have been forced to not exist. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you. Martine, did you want to go next?
Sure, I definitely can. We have a new one of our panelists joining, so maybe in a second we'll have someone saying hello again. Hi, Maddox.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Hello. We can. We can't see you yet, but that's okay. Your voice is just as amazing. Oh, they'll rejoin. It's the solar flexes, remember. So, but
Solar flare.
solar flare. I said the solar flexes. Okay. So, yeah. Remind me of the question if you don't mind.
What does visibility mean for you as a trans person?
So visibility for me, honestly, I feel like, so I was very lucky and I got to go to the flag raising today. The center hosted this flag raising at the Pride Promenade. And so I was able to be there, and it was really amazing to see so many community members that I feel like I maybe haven't interacted with yet. And I got to today, and I was like, wow, look at how visible we're being in the middle of the street. And we have the police around us, and they're protecting us, and they're being there for us. And so we still need to be protected. Right. And so it was kind of this like polarizing back and forth between visibility can be a positive, but it can very much still be a negative. And I think that we understand that we're still experiencing some negative aspects of visibility in our community. So I think visibility is empowering, but I think that it can only do so much if you choose to wield it as a positive, to affect change. So, but yeah, today felt good being visible and being around other trans and non-binary and gender non-conforming individuals. It was a baddie moment. So
I love it. Thank you, Martine. And hello, Maddox. I'm going to have you introduce yourself in just a second, okay? Venice, I don't know if you wanted to answer. What does visibility mean for you?
It means a lot to me as an older trans woman to see the younger non-binary trans women. It just feels good because even though there's a safe place, but then there's not a safe place. You understand what I'm saying? Because when I was making my transition, the police wasn't very nice at all. So it's a blessing to see that my babies, because you guys are all babies to me, because I'm way older than all of y'all, my babies can be able to walk the streets and be who they desire. Do they know that they are? So like I said, my transition coming through, it was like a trans woman had to have one piece of clothing of a man on them or they go to jail. So it's just, like our flag, how pink and blue it is, it just feels good.
I love that. And we had missed it earlier when we lost you for a second there, but part of when we were introducing ourselves, we were talking about, when did you start your transition timeline wise of this piece of, grounding ourselves in, the whole intention of this conversation was to be intergenerational. And so grounding ourselves in these landmark times of when each of us were beginning our transition or coming out as trans. So when about was that for you?
That was in the 80s. It was we were barely recognized. It started, that's when everything started trickling and everything. So in the 80s, I moved to San Diego, and it was like, because I'm from a little country town. You've heard of Fresno, Moore, Visalia, and all them little towns. So it was ooh. So when I came to San Diego and I see other young ladies like me, I was so happy. So yeah. So in the early 80s.
Excellent. And I just kind of want to comment on it. I love that, and you refer to all of us and our generations as your babies because we're all younger than you. And part of my work is I work directly with high schoolers, and I always refer to them as my kids. And they're like, well, we're adults now. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. You're always going to be my kids. So
yeah.
It's, it's that shared piece of you as older trans individuals. It doesn't matter what that older and younger ages are, that sort of kinship that we feel towards our siblings who are in this community with us. So I love that you brought that up. Maddox, welcome to the party. Obviously, we've been waiting for you the whole time, and we can just now get started now that you're here. So do you want to introduce yourself, name, pronouns, and when did you start your transition?
Hi, I'm Maddox Lyon, he, him, his. I started my transition 3 or 4 years ago, about, yeah. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and stuff.
We're excited to have you. Maddox, how old are you?
I'm 14 years old, yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so I met Maddox years ago. I hate that you're 14. Are you in high school now?
Yeah.
It's terrible. Well, congratulations on making it to high school in a pandemic. I imagine it's been its own set of new challenges. Let's hop in with it with the first question. What does visibility mean for you, Maddox?
Well, I guess visibility means I'm kind of like comfortable in myself and I'm comfortable like being out with everyone else. Yeah, and I've had a lot of support from my family and friends, so it's made it easier for me to be visible around like my school and community. Yeah.
Excellent. Awesome. And a couple of you had mentioned, and this piece of, I think, the cisgender or the outside of our experience reaction to us as trans people and how that shapes our experiences as, you know, trans people in particular in those early stages. And so I think there's very much this piece, and I think Martine had mentioned it, I think Francesca had mentioned it, and Lady Pepper, you had as well, but this piece of like safety, right? And so as we're entering this place in contemporary history where our politics, it seems like we're on this giant seesaw of, you know, affirming the trans and non-binary community, and then we're seeing things like what's going on in Florida and Texas and Alabama right now. And so, you know, do you feel at this time with what's going on in this world, do you feel safe as out trans individuals? Are you out as trans, like in your public spheres? You know, where is that piece for you? And I know it's kind of a heavy question, so feel free to sit with it for a second, but I am going to toss it to Martine because I know they saw these questions earlier, so they probably already have an answer.
I do. And I think it's a good starting point for me because I think that I have, like, you know, I think that it's a term we don't use really anymore. And I also think but passing privilege, almost like, you know, like as a non-binary person, I'm obviously a non-binary mask presenting individual. And so I think that I enter a lot of spaces with that, and people perceive my gender identity and perceive me in one way, and then they attempt to gender me around that. And so I think that the most disarming or like moments that I feel unsafe are in situations, and quite honestly, as I've gotten older, in cisgender environments where I feel like, for instance, if I'm going out drinking, I feel more comfortable and more apt to go to, for here in San Diego, it would be probably Hillcrest, because I don't feel like I have to explain myself. And I don't feel like I have to have microaggressions like being misgendered thrown at me. And so I think that that's something that I want to acknowledge of myself. But I also think that like I get misgendered a lot because of the fact that I'm trans mask and that I present with my non-binary self as a masculine individual. But I think anybody that knows me knows I'm extremely femme. I always refer to myself as an NFT, for those that know, a non-binary femtop. So that's me. That's my little thing. And so, yeah, I don't know. How about anybody else? Like, I feel like I rambled a little there. It wouldn't be a response for me if there wasn't a ramble.
No, it's excellent. And actually, before we hop on to someone else, you know, I think there's this piece of like going out, right? Like I hit 21, I hit clubbing age, bar age during the pandemic. And so I'm finally starting. I mean, you know this, Martine, you were with me the first time I ordered a drink at a bar, right? That was literally just a couple months ago. And so how do you deal with like the microaggressions that you experience in those sorts of venues where you're trying to be comfortable, you're trying to relax, and your identity isn't necessarily being attacked, but it's being disregarded? What kind of goes through your head in those moments?
who you talking to?
I was like, is that volleyed to me or someone else?
It was totally volleyed to Martine. Yes.
Okay. So for me, I know that I will say, because I want to save room for others to speak, but me, Evan and I have had a back and forth conversation on this before. How do you approach the situations? And for me, I've taught myself now, I think, to take it with a grain of salt. And for those who can, a shot of tequila. Because I think for me, I've learned that it speaks more on the community as a large if I take every microaggression thrown at me as an, like a need to respond and react. And I think that we as a community need to speak with integrity. But I think that like when we understand that it's disrespect, we gonna come from the left side. Okay. And like we stand together. And that's my big thing that I always talk about is like you come from one person in the community, you're coming for us all. And so I think for me, I just swallow and then say, okay. And then maybe like, vent a little bit afterwards in a different room.
So this piece of like, if it happens in the moment, you don't really address it in that moment and you more prioritize, I'm going to process this with people who I know get it. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I think that's a very relatable part to the experience and something that I think a lot of us do. Lady Pepper, did you have something that you wanted to say about, the safety piece or even this piece of like when you're out and when you're navigating the world as an out person, if you are out in your transness in the world, how do you balance those two pieces, like that personal safety versus the pride for your identity? How do you balance those pieces?
That's kind of hard. You're gonna have to explain to me a little bit more. Okay.
Yeah, like in situations, so like in a situation like Martine was sharing where when they're at the bar, something like being misgendered, right? So it's something where people may not necessarily know that they're trans, they're just misgendering them. But that piece of, do you say something in that moment and risk your safety, or do you hold back and know that like you can process it later in a safe space, or kind of how do you gauge that personal safety in any environment?
Well, I've had like that happen. I used to be a bartender, and the person came in, and because even though they put the drag queens and trans women under the same umbrella, but when the person came in and they said, "Oh, that's a drag queen," and I was like, "Who?" I played it off. Who are you talking about? I just looked around the room. Who are you talking about? And the person said, "You." And I said, "Oh, I didn't know that," and I left it like that, And then afterwards, the person, I guess somebody had talked to the person, and the person came up and apologized. So I feel that don't say nothing, just keep it, And if you got people that's around you that know you, if hopefully they're going to say something, you know what I'm saying? But I've never had to where, I didn't feel safe, but I let them know, who I am. You can't, you don't understand it. Sit down and let me explain to you. If you don't want to know, then I prefer you to, respect me like you want me to respect you.
Yeah.
Is that a good answer?
No, it's a great answer. And that piece of like, especially I imagine in a scenario where you're working, is also like the way you have to navigate that is also being mindful of like your employment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I'm also one of those people where it's like I won't say anything, but my sister will usually say something if she's with me, or one of my friends will say something if they're with me, and that's something I've given them consent to do for me, of like I'm not going to correct someone if they misgender me, but hey, if you feel the need to, go ahead. And it is kind of like that piece that Martine said earlier of like, I don't want a person's negative experience with me as a trans person. And Martine, I don't know, maybe I'm interpreting this wrong, but I don't want someone to take an experience with me as a trans person negatively and then use that as a reason to see our entire community in a negative light.
Yeah.
No, that's T. You got it.
Excellent. Thanks, Martine. Francesca, Maddox, did either of you want to share about this piece of, do you feel safe as out trans people in the world today? Francesca?
I could
Yeah,
share.
you're unmuted. Go ahead.
So just for myself, it's just been a journey of like loving myself. And I know like my level of dealing with other people when I am misgendered, I feel like visibly I am passable, but when I use my voice, it's the thing that even talking right now, it brings me a lot of discomfort. Um, and I feel like I feel protected here in San Diego, but when I go to others, like very straight cisgender spheres, even outside of the Hillcrest, North Park, I don't always feel safe about being like out and trans. And so, especially when navigating dating, just going to something simply as a bar and someone's talking to you and I don't want to talk to them because I don't want to out myself with my voice. And when I am misgendered, usually when I'm speaking, I have the fortune to work in a workplace that's extremely supportive. So usually like a coworker will correct them because there's just something really exhausting of always being like the teacher and trying to have to explain yourself like, and if it happens like back to back. But I know that when I work on my self-love and my self-acceptance, which I'm still on my journey of, I'm able to like navigate the world more gracefully. And like those little things that happen to me, like being misgendered, they don't really matter that much anymore because I really know who I am.
I love that. What a beautiful answer. Maddox, how about you? I mean you're still in school, right? So is your school back in person or are you still virtual?
Yeah, we're back in person. Well, I mean, my school is seen as like our representation is super supportive and affirming, and everyone kind of thinks that everyone there is supposed to like be super, yes, LGBTQ. But in reality, like most of the guys there in the locker rooms are kind of really bad with the slurs and the things they say. Like it's kind of like they call each other that, but then sometimes they goof off and they call other people that too. And I mean, it's not really okay to be throwing those around. And we even had an incident at the school where they wrote like slurs on the walls, like with either paint or something. And so the school was kind of like they were more focused on the racial slurs that were put up instead of they didn't mention much of the LGBTQ slurs that they also put up there. So yeah, I feel pretty safe at my school because my friends are supportive, and yeah, they can usually correct people if they misgender me. But yeah, there are some people at my school that aren't so supportive.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting that for so many of us, we mentioned other people protecting us in spaces where we may not feel safe, or we may not feel available or able to correct others about our identities. Like Francesca mentioned her coworkers. I mentioned my sister, my friends. Maddox mentioned his friends. And I think that's a really interesting piece to at least my coming out story. And I would hope for other people's coming out stories of like, who was that person? And Francesca, you also mentioned yourself, right? Loving yourself. And I think that's also a perfectly acceptable answer if that is anyone's answer. But who was that person who was most supportive of you in your journey? I don't know if anyone wants to go first on that one. Maybe Maddox, since you went last time. You want to go first?
Well, I think my family has been like hugely supportive, and I have a few friends at school that are really supportive too. But I think like what mostly like opened my eyes to like how many people I like realized that actually supported me was when I went to the Pride Parade and I saw that with people with all the banners and the Pride flags, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, we love you." And I thought that was really kind of empowering, like how many people understand me or support me. Seeing that was really cool. So
I won't even lie a little bit. Every year. I want to say it was just my first and second years marching in Pride. It's been every year. I cry during the Pride Parade every year because that feeling of, oh my God, all of these people are here because like they support me, right? They may not know me, Evan, or support me, Evan, but they support who I am, and they acknowledge that I am a person who's worthy of love, and that's really incredible. So yeah, no, I also feel this absolute awe when I'm like marching in Pride, or I'm at any sort of LGBT event, and I start to see people who are there in support of us. It's really special. Martine, I saw you had unmuted yourself. Did you want to share next?
I was just gonna say, like, I love this conversation, and I love how happy Venice looks. Lady Pepper, you look so elated to see how maybe like a lot of the experiences you had have lived and paved the way again for like us to just stand here and have this conversation. And I don't know, I've had a very long day, so maybe my emotions are getting the best of me, but it's making me want to tear up a little bit with how just the trans pride here is beautiful and the visibility is beautiful. So I also saw Francesca had wanted maybe to tap in.
Yeah, Francesca.
Yeah, and I agree too. It just feels nice to be in a space with other queer and trans people. And I actually messaged him today. I'm also in recovery, so I've been in recovery for 8 years now, and so my recovery is tied to giving me the tools to find out who I was, and just me living openly and like as a trans woman is really tied to like 8 years of also being in recovery. So that person for me was my second sponsor. His name was Todd McCoy. And I did message him this morning, and he was just the most gentle, loving, beautiful gay man who always saw me for who I was. And he really gave me the courage to, because I had so much doubts about, finding out who and coming out and starting HRT. And he just was so loving and gentle that he gave me the courage to help me fly. So this is for Todd. And I'm very emotional today too.
No, it's I mean, like we were saying with Maddox, like it's emotional to be in spaces where you're just without conditions affirmed and supported for who you are. And I imagine someone like a sponsor who has been with you for such vulnerable parts of your journey outside of your transition, like his support must have felt so so incredible in that moment. And I'm so glad that you have him in your life. And that you're still connected, that you texted him today. That's so lovely. I don't know who would like to go.
And with me, through my journey, my husband, 33 years, my oldest sister, and my nieces and nephews. Because when I made the transition, it was quickly they started calling me Auntie Pepper, Auntie Pepper. So it was some days it was like, I can't do this no more, But after I made my transition and everything, now is me working in the community. And what keeps me going is to see you young people. Because there's times I just want to sit down. I don't even want to do the work no more. But then when I see the young people, it's like, okay, I can't give up now. I got to keep on doing. And knowing I have a support group, if anybody knows about it, it's called Diamond in the Rough. And I always give the young ladies awards, the non-binary. This year, I'm planning and I'm praying that I can have I want it in a big old hall that we can have a red carpet and we just can be lovable and be happy.
Yeah. How amazing. I love like how quickly your family switched their language to be affirming of you, and your nieces and nephews starting to call you auntie. And I there's something very special to that piece of like when family acknowledges us, where it's like for them it may not even be such a big deal, but for us it feels so incredible. For myself, my coming out journey, my transition has been scattered throughout the years. I only just changed my name about 1.5 years ago now. And I was finally going to like come out with my name at my college graduation. I was going to have my diploma say Evan, because our diplomas don't have to say our legal name. And because I was graduating in the pandemic, there was a live stream link to watch the graduation, and my cousin in Maryland texted me, and she said, you know, everyone on the East Coast is cheering for Evan Alyssa, and that's, you know, that's me, that's my name. And I had never come out to her officially, and I had never actually said anything to her about, you know, who I am, but she just sent me that text the day that I was literally sitting there at my graduation ceremony, and she sent me that, and I was like, oh, all of my makeup ruined. It's already gone. It's already over. But that piece of how families support of us, because it doesn't feel like it's not expected all the time. I think for those of us in the trans community, we don't always expect our families to still love and support us after we come out. So it's special. It's really special. So I think a conversation that I've been thinking a lot about, a question I've been thinking a lot about, and one that is on my list that I'm looking at right now is if there's been any like celebrities or other trans people in your life where they've, you know, inspired you or kept you going through your transition. And I've been talking about it a lot because they just released that Elliot Page's character on the Umbrella Academy. They're transitioning him. And when I saw that news, I immediately texted my partner. My partner didn't see that I texted them. They immediately called me and they were like, his name is Victor. It was very exciting. And so that piece of like, this is a celebrity who I loved. I've been watching Elliot Page's movies for years. And so for him to transition and for him to unashamedly share his trans joy, like it's a really interesting space where now I get to say like, oh no, like there are people, you know, who are happy and who are trans and happy in their visibility of being trans people. So I'm curious, you know, who are your trans celebrities who you're just like, yeah, if you're doing it, I can do it too. There's so many to choose from now, so somebody has to have an answer, right? Francesca, what about you?
The first time I saw Laverne Cox on Orange is the New Black, and then just Janet Mock. There's just so many. Janet Mock, like the cast of Pose. I mean, it's like, it just makes me really proud to be like a trans woman of color. And just like, I follow them like on Instagram and like socials, and it's like, I feel like, and they're kind of like the same age as me too. So it's like, they give me like, just really like, they just really inspire me, you know? And to just see them like on TV, like to see myself finally, like to see mirrors of me in TV and in books, like it's, I don't know, they always inspire me.
And I want to hold on to a piece that you just said right there. And in particular, that piece that you feel proud to be a trans woman of color, right? And so this acknowledgement that, you know, we're talking about this increase of our youth getting to see themselves in media, right? We're seeing more and more movies like Encanto that are representing Latina communities with all sorts of different skin colors and hair textures, and this piece of how important that is for our kiddos. Well, our trans kiddos and our trans adults, we also deserve to see that and how powerful that is. And to see someone, I'm sure in particular, who it lives in that intersectionality, that same intersectionality that you do as a trans woman of color, and knowing like, oh no, this is my sister, this is my sibling, this is a part of my family. And, you know, she's being visible, she's paving the way so that I can do it in my own world that I'm living in. And I think that's really special in that piece of not only people who identify like us, but people who also look like us. I think too frequently we see just white trans representation, like Elliot Page, you know, and it's very indicative that that's the first person who came to my mind, where our trans community of color, you know, don't always get that same visibility. And that's really special. And it's really important that shows like Pose exist and continue to push forward the identities and the existences of our trans population of color. Yeah, I love that.
You have something to say, Francesca, before I pop off?
I'm also just like our local celebrities, like Miss Peppa, Tracy J. O'Brien, Jill Legaspi. I'm from the Bay Area, so Tita Aida, who's with Trans APA. And so like just our trans who paved the road for us to be here today, our local celebrities here in California. Thank you for all you did for us so that we could be here. Thank you for walking so we could run. Thank you so much.
I will say it, Martine, before you go off, because I know you will. The first time I met Lady Pepper was the SDPD LGBT Advisory Board. I was an intern for Trans Family Support Services, and I had been brought onto this board. And you held yourself with such incredible, like, not like it was like casual authority. Like this piece of you were so assured in your role at that table and your seat at that table, and you're deserving of that role. And to see as like, I was like 19, right? To see as a 19-year-old kid, this this trans woman who was so incredibly unapologetic in her identity was, it was world changing. Like, I had met other kids my age. I'd met other people my age who identified like me, but to see a trans adult, to see trans elders, like it's so special that we in San Diego have so many people that we get to look up to. The fact that I got to work alongside you, the fact that, you know, we have folks just navigating these spaces alongside us and doing this advocacy arm in arm with us. Like I literally like have goosebumps right now. Like it's so special to me. So I love, Francesca, that you brought that up. Yes, the celebrity piece is important, but also our hometown heroes, our local folks who are still doing the work and have been doing the work, and it's an honor to get to work alongside. So yeah, I did want to say that. Martine, take it away. It's your floor.
I was just gonna say the same thing, which is so funny because like when I think about who inspired me along my understanding of my gender, it's Black trans women. Like Janet Mock was a huge part of me starting to even consider and looking into gender identity and what it means to be maybe outside or be explorative of your gender. And I had this conversation with Lady Pepper when I called her about, I'm super inspired by Courtney Johnson here locally in the San Diego scene. And everything that she and Amber St. James are doing right now with the productions that they're doing and just trying to keep things alive for the community is really inspirational. And also people like obviously Laverne Cox, but a lot of the people that we're highlighting right now, like I got the opportunity to do like a research project kind of to look into like the trans visibility and timeline of things. And me and Atlas, who's behind the scenes right now, saw all of these individuals who from the 1400s, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s were trans. Maybe they just didn't have that language yet. And like to know that I have a lineage of community that goes that far back, I just want it to be, I want a historian to go, and I want them like Lambda Archives here in San Diego to, you know, continue to do that type of work so we can see that put into history books. Because one of the things that was highlighted today earlier was that people don't know why the color of the flags, Naya from the center brought up, you know, people don't know the color of the flags, what the purpose of it is for the trans flag, right? People don't know who made the trans flag, why it was made. That's our history. So, but I would say 100% how y'all were saying, it's the local people, and like celebrities are great, but like, I'm always going to be more inspired by the people that are doing it in my backyard. So that's just tea.
A fantastic answer. Maddox, what about you? Anyone who's inspired you in your journey?
I think Dana Simpson, who helped me write my children's book, and I would say JVN too from Queer Eye and some other Queer Eye people on the show. Yeah, they've all kind of made me feel like I can be out there, and yeah, they kind of make me feel good about myself.
Okay, shameless plug for a second. Maddox wrote a book. Maddox, tell us about your book for a second. We're just gonna take a quick pause. Tell us about your book.
My book is I'm Not a Girl by me, Maddox Lyons, and Jessica Verde, and the illustrator is Dana Simpson. I wrote it when I was around 9. Oh yeah, my mom wants to show the cover. Yeah. And Yeah, I read it when I was 9 when I came out. And at first, I actually didn't want anything to do with it. I was like, no, I don't want it to have my face or like my hair color. I want it to have nothing to do with me because I didn't really feel comfortable in my own skin, and I didn't want to be known as like a trans boy. But now I feel better about being myself, and I asked her to like redraw everything to have red hair and freckles and stuff. So yeah, now I feel a lot better in my skin, and yeah.
I love that you have a copy of the book right there, because you were not going to get out of this live stream without telling us about your book.
Yeah,
You
you're gonna
wrote
have to
a
connect with
book.
me, Connor. You have to go and share at the libraries.
Yeah, Maddox, go read it at the library for Francesca. Yeah. We're making connections here. This is what we're doing. Denise, was there anyone in your transition, in your journey, who inspired you? Any other trans women or other trans leaders who you looked up to when you were going through it?
You know, there wasn't. I have to be truthful. There wasn't. Um, I made it because, like I said, I live in a little town. I would be a boy by day and then be a woman by night. And then, like I said, when I moved here, it was like, okay, I can do this. I can be me every day. But then, I had problems living with family members. One family member, I still have problems with her. But other than that, I still love her. So, but um, but when I came here, and then what's so funny is when I started transitioning, and then now seeing Laverne Cox and all of them. That's why I say it's so. I sit back and I just take a deep breath because I said, ooh, them babies don't have to go through what I went through. That's the main thing. That's why I'm so joyful and happy. And there's times you may see me, I'm a cry, I'm a big crybaby, just to see the baby here. Well, I can't. I'm an older woman, so I can't pronounce names too good. The baby right here, what's his name?
Maddox.
Maddox. The seat, and then we had, what was it? One year we had the day of empowerment, I think it was, and I seen all the little boys and little girls. I was like, oh my goodness! I said, good. I said, they're not going to have to go through what we went through. I said, oh. And then I got the boo-hooing, and everybody said, you're messing up your makeup, Pepper. I don't care. Look at some babies. And I was just crying and crying. And matter of fact, Cassie was there. She said, girl, your makeup is right. I didn't care because it felt so good. That's why I say, all I want to do is just show love. I don't talk much. I don't tell what I do much. I work with the Latino community. I love them. Those are my girls. Those are my girls. And just all the community. Everybody sees me as, some call me Mama Pepper, some call me Miss Pepper, Lady Pepper. Oh, there's Lady. And I just love, when I see you, I'm going to hug you. I'm going to love on you. It made me so mad when the pandemic came because I couldn't hug my babies. Yeah, so that, I didn't, like I said, I really didn't have nobody encouraged until I came to San Diego. And then when, I did the journey by myself, but then when I seen the younger young ladies coming out, like Laverne Cox on TV, and I said, "Wow, it's growing." The babies don't have to, go through the turmoil that we went through.
And I think that's why we did an intergenerational panel for TDOV, right? Is this change in visibility and what that's meant for our younger generations. The fact that you didn't have anyone that you could look up to or that you could model yourself after or say, oh, I'm not alone in this. I don't feel alone, right? And I mean, even when I was coming out, I think it was around 2012, right? So like pretty recent, there still wasn't that much visibility. And we really have seen such an increase in it, so that our kiddos like Maddox, so that my high schoolers, my middle schoolers who I work with, they all have people who they can look up to. I mean, just recently I was like, oh, who's your favorite trans musician? And they all had like different answers. And I'm like, okay, there's more than 2 trans musicians. Okay, work. I love this. And it literally is like, it's such an overwhelming feeling of knowing that, you know, our youth are going to walk an entirely different journey than we walked, than I walked, than you walked, than Martine and Francesca walked. Like all of us already had our own entirely different journey, and it's still changing. And it's really exciting to get to be a part of it. And I'm really grateful to have like such an icon in the community as you here, who so many of us mentioned that you were one of the individuals we looked up to, right? Yes. And then moving into this piece of what does the future look like, right? What do our kiddos have to look forward to? So I got a little sappy while you were talking. I was like, oh, I gotta wipe my eyes, and I'm gonna sit here and cry on the live stream, and I'm sure my partner's gonna make fun of me, and that's fine. So let's lean into this. Let's lean into this future vision that we're having here, and this piece of the babies don't have to go through what we went through. The kids don't have to go through what we went through, and they're gonna go through their own thing. What is like one piece of advice that you would give to our trans kiddos or our parents of trans kiddos? Because we have so many like 3 and 4-year-olds, right? Where they don't even know there's anything different about being trans, but maybe their parents are walking these journeys alongside them. You know, what is it that you would say to them from where we are right now and the years we have on us now?
You know, and people may not want to take it this way. I just feel that even though we have some people out there that can be really nasty, but just love, even though, you know, I'm going to put it blunt, even though if they misgender you or whatever, just tell them, okay, baby, I love you, and just go on. Because the more you nag, it gets worse. So just love on one another. You see, and I feel that if you see your sister hurting because she went through something like that, just go over there and love on her. Oh, girl, I'm with you. I'm with you. You know, and that's why I feel that we should come more together. I don't like this bickering and whatever and all that. I don't like that. Just, you know, let's love on me. If you don't like me, explain to me why. What did I do to you? Forgive me. And hug me and tell me, oh, I'm sorry, I won't do that again. You know, that's why I said for the journey for the mothers and fathers, just love on your child. You see somebody acting crazy, you just, hey, you know, this is my child. You don't agree, but I love my child. So hey, you know, and just go on with life and enjoy life. That's just me. That's just me. I'm just a lovable person, and I've had people that just don't like me they don't even know why they don't like me. But when I speak to them and love on them, oh hi, and I keep doing that hi. Next thing you know, I'm hugging them and they're hugging me. So, but as long as you keep loving on them and keep hi, they ain't got no reason to hate you. You know. So that's the way I feel.
And I think, and this is something I share with my kiddos all the time, and love, especially like love when we are in such difficult times, is such a revolutionary act. And not just love towards others, but also this piece of self-love and children being unapologetically loved by their parents, right? Like that piece of, this is my child and I love them. That's a revolutionary statement. So I love that. And I love that we're starting the end of this live stream with that. So Francesca, do you like to share next?
I'm sure. So just to parents, to children, to family, to friends, it's okay not to know all the answers, But we're so blessed today to have, especially here in San Diego, to have wonderful organizations like the Center, like Trans Family Support Service, San Diego Pride. Surround yourself with information, a support network, so you can learn more. And so, like we all just said, so you can love your children, learn to love yourself. And for the youth, once you have all that information, you know who you are, have the courage to live your life and live your authentic truth, because your story being visible has the power to change the world. Being a visible trans woman today, I know I'm a beacon of hope for others. And so I take great comfort in that even though my life isn't free of struggles, one of my struggles is not because I'm in the closet and I don't love and I don't know myself. So don't be afraid to be you. You have so much to give the world. And so I hope you find the courage to find your path.
That's beautiful. Excellent.
Thanks, dear.
Martine.
Yeah, so I would say everything that's been said. Dominique Morgan, who is the current executive director of the Ochre Project, which is a wonderful BIPOC-led, it's all trans women, Black trans women-led organization out in the South, did a thing for trans disability with logo, in which she said, and she highlighted Zaya Wade, which is Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade's child, and made a beautiful comment about how everyone will say that it is due to the fact that they have money and income, and that's why that child is thriving. And the reality is that child is thriving because they're being loved. So I definitely echo everybody here. Loving your child first and foremost is always going to help them succeed and thrive in life. That's just tea. That's going to be on a t-shirt, watch. And then the other thing I'll say is elect more trans people. We will not have a difference in our society until we have more representation in our government. So elect more trans people, elect more people who look like us, who live like us, and who understand the experiences and the boundaries and barriers of access that we face. So I had to get that in there.
So Martine, when are we electing you in for what?
I would be gladly elected in to eat all the desserts at the buffet as soon as anybody wants to meet me there for an election.
All right, I'll keep an eye out. And one of these days I'm sure you're going to run for something and I'm going to have to vote for you because you're incredible, and the way that you carry yourself and the way that you speak. I mean, I know you do a good job representing the people. All right, Maddox, what about you? What would you say to the younger trans folks, younger than 14?
Well, I would say that for the parents to listen to your children, like usually by like a young age, you'll kind of have a little bit of an understanding, like that you're either different or you kind of have an understanding of who you are, and that the parents should kind of understand that and try to support them. And yeah, I guess try to love yourself and find the other people who support you and love you to surround yourself with. And yeah.
I am so thrilled that I got to moderate this conversation tonight with y'all, and I really appreciate everyone who tuned in to watch us. I think there's such an incredible act to trans people being in the spotlight and trans people being visible, and there's such an incredible piece of activism being done by witnessing trans people, right? So thank you for witnessing us. Thank you for being a part of this evening with us. And to all of my lovely, lovely panelists, thank you for being so vulnerable and open and earnest and passionate. It is always going to amaze me that I get to be a part of this community and that I get to be a part of something so much bigger than just myself or just San Diego or just California, right? Like, by being a part of this community, we get to be immortal. We're living far beyond our own lifespans because who knows who we're inspiring. So this Trans Day of Visibility, first of all, hug a trans person if you haven't already. Find your nearest trans person, ask them if they're okay with a hug, and then give them a hug if they are. 2, be sure to check out some of these grassroots small organizations like the Okra Project, like other nonprofits that are doing this work from the voices of trans people, highlighting trans experiences. That is so essential. And finally, just know that by being a part of this, you are a part of so much bigger than yourself. Whether that be sharing a Facebook story or correcting someone when they misgender a trans celebrity, or telling your trans kid that you will always love them. That is an irreplaceable act of love. So, with my love for all of you, we're at over an hour. We did start late, so I got to end late. But thank you all so much for watching. Thank you again to my panelists. Please check out our website if you have any questions about the services. Check out the San Diego Public Library's Pride page. Check out Maddox's book. Check out Lady Pepper just for the sake that she's Lady Pepper and she's amazing. And eventually, one day vote for Martine. So I'll see you all real soon and have a great night. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.